The door clicked shut behind me like a guillotine. 23 years. 23 years of my life poured into these walls, and now my nameplate was gone. The security card I'd carried since 2001 blinked red at the reader. Denied. Alaric Thorne sat behind my desk, fingers drumming against the mahogany surface I'd earned through blood and sleepless nights. His smile cut like glass. Vesper, he said, voice smooth as poison, the board voted. You're out. My throat closed. Out? This is my expansion. My blueprint. He leaned back, eyes cold. Was yours. Now it's mine. The contract sprawled across the desk mocked me. My name was scratched out. His name blazing in bold ink. 23 years erased in 23 seconds. You should thank me, he continued. I'm giving you dignity. A quiet exit before the ink dries. Rage clawed up my spine, but I swallowed it down. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction. Instead, I turned and walked toward the door, each step measured, deliberate. Behind me, his laughter echoed like breaking glass. But as my hand touched the handle, I made a silent vow. I will take back everything. Before the ink dries. The hallway stretched endlessly. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting shadows that felt like vultures. My pulse hammered in my ears. How did this happen? How did I not see it coming? Alaric had been my protégé. I'd hired him fresh from business school, taught him everything, how to read investors, how to structure deals, how to turn vision into empire. And he'd learned. He'd learned too well. My phone vibrated against my palm. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me look. The message glowed cold and urgent. They're moving faster than you think. You have 48 hours. My fingers froze. Who was this? I typed back quickly, who are you? The response came instantly, someone who knows what Alaric's really planning. Meet me. Tonight. Latitude Coffee. Come alone. My heart kicked against my ribs. This could be a trap. Or it could be the lifeline I desperately needed. I glanced back toward the office, toward the empire I'd built and the man who'd stolen it. 48 hours. The clock was already ticking. Latitude Coffee sat on the edge of downtown, tucked between aging brick buildings that remembered better days. I pushed through the door at exactly 9 o'clock. The place smelled like burnt espresso and old secrets. Only 3 people sat inside. A college student with headphones. An elderly man reading yesterday's newspaper. And in the corner booth, half hidden in shadow, a woman with steel gray hair and eyes sharp as knives. She waved me over. I slid into the seat across from her, pulse racing. Who are you? She smiled faintly. Cordelia Rains. I worked under you 12 years ago. Research division. I frowned, searching my memory. Then it clicked, the quiet analyst who'd uncovered the pharmaceutical loophole that saved us millions. You disappeared. I was pushed out, she corrected. By Alaric. My blood went cold. What? Cordelia leaned forward, voice dropping to a whisper. He's not just stealing your expansion, Vesper. He's planning to destroy you completely. Erase every trace of your legacy. She slid a manila folder across the table. This is his blueprint. And you have less than 2 days to stop him. The folder felt like a live grenade. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside were documents that turned my stomach, contracts with offshore accounts, shell companies registered in tax havens, transfer agreements that stripped my name from every patent I'd ever filed. But the worst part was the final page. A backdated termination agreement claiming I'd been medically unfit for months. Incompetent. Senile. Dangerous to the company. My vision blurred with rage. He's going to say I lost my mind? Cordelia nodded grimly. He's already planted evidence. Emails you supposedly sent with incoherent rambling. Meeting notes claiming you showed signs of dementia. Witness statements from people he's paid off. I slammed the folder shut. This is fraud. It's brilliant fraud, she said quietly. And it's legal enough that by the time you prove otherwise, he'll own everything. Your expansion. Your patents. Your reputation. I looked at her, desperate. Why are you helping me? Her eyes darkened. Because he did the same thing to me. And I've spent 12 years waiting for the chance to take him down. She pulled out a second envelope. But we need to move fast. And we need Thaddeus. Thaddeus Verne is dead, I said flatly. Everyone knew that story. The reclusive tech genius who'd revolutionized medical diagnostics before vanishing in a yacht explosion off the coast of Greece 5 years ago. Cordelia's smile was sharp. That's what he wanted you to think. I stared at her. You're insane. Am I? She tapped the envelope. Thaddeus faked his death to escape Alaric. He knew what was coming, knew Alaric would eventually betray everyone around him. So he disappeared. But he's been watching. Waiting. My head spun. Where is he? Close, she said. And he's the only person who can access the original expansion files. The ones Alaric thinks he destroyed. Hope flickered like a dying match. You're telling me there's a backup? Better than a backup, Cordelia whispered. Thaddeus kept copies of everything, encrypted, hidden, untouchable. If we can get to him, we can prove the expansion was yours. We can undo everything Alaric's done. I leaned back, mind racing. 48 hours. A dead man who wasn't dead. And a revenge plan that sounded impossible. But what choice did I have? I met Cordelia's eyes. Where do we find him? Tomorrow morning. Harbor District. Pier 19. Cordelia's words hung in the smoky air between us. He'll meet you at dawn. Alone. I shook my head. Why the secrecy? Because Alaric has people everywhere. Security. IT. Even your assistant, Lorelei, she's feeding him information. The betrayal stung like acid. Lorelei had been with me for 8 years. Made my coffee. Booked my flights. Listened to my dreams about the expansion. All while whispering my secrets to Alaric. Cordelia must have seen my face. Don't take it personally. Alaric's good at finding pressure points. He promised her something she couldn't refuse. I swallowed hard. What about you? What's your pressure point? She hesitated, then pulled up her sleeve. A thin white scar ran from wrist to elbow. He took everything from me once. My career. My reputation. Almost my life. Her eyes met mine, fierce and unbroken. I won't let him do it again. Not to you. Not to anyone. We sat in silence for a moment. Then I stood, pocketing the envelope. Pier 19. Dawn. Cordelia nodded. And Vesper? Don't trust anyone. Not even people you've known for years. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Alaric's smile, that cold, calculated expression he'd perfected over years of pretending to be my ally. At 4 a.m, I gave up and dressed in the darkness. The city outside my window was still sleeping, but I was wide awake. I grabbed my coat and slipped out before sunrise, driving through empty streets toward the harbor. The smell of saltwater and rust filled my lungs as I parked near Pier 19. Fog rolled thick across the docks, turning everything ghostly and strange. I checked my phone. No messages. No missed calls. Just the ticking clock reminding me how little time I had left. Footsteps echoed behind me. I spun around, heart hammering. A figure emerged from the mist, tall, lean, wearing a dark coat with the collar turned up. As he stepped closer, I saw his face. Thaddeus Verne. Older. Weathered. But unmistakably alive. "Hello, Vesper," he said quietly. "We don't have much time." Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his face went pale. "They know you're here. We need to move. Now." "Who knows?" I demanded as Thaddeus grabbed my arm, pulling me toward a rusted warehouse at the edge of the pier. "Alaric's security team," he said grimly. "They've been tracking your phone." I cursed under my breath. Of course, they had. I'd been so focused on the meeting, I hadn't thought about digital surveillance. We ducked inside the warehouse. The space smelled like oil and decay. Thaddeus led me through rows of abandoned shipping containers to a metal door hidden behind stacked pallets. He punched a code into a keypad. The door hissed open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down. "This way." We descended into what looked like a small tech bunker, computers humming, screens glowing, cables snaking across the floor. Thaddeus moved to the main console and started typing. "I've been monitoring Alaric for 5 years," he said. "Every transaction. Every backdoor deal. Every lie." He pulled up a file on the screen. "This is the original expansion blueprint. Timestamped. Authenticated. Undeniable proof that you created it." I stared at the documents, relief flooding through me. "Why didn't you come forward before?" Thaddeus's jaw tightened. "Because I was waiting for the right moment. For him to overplay his hand." He turned to me, eyes hard. "He just did." "What do you mean?" I asked. Thaddeus pulled up another file, a video feed from yesterday's board meeting. I watched myself get fired in real time, watched Alaric's smug smile as he claimed ownership of my life's work. But then Thaddeus fast-forwarded to after I left. The board members remained seated, and Alaric stood at the head of the table. "Gentlemen," he said smoothly, "with Vesper out, we move to Phase 2 immediately. By this time next week, we'll control every major healthcare supplier on the East Coast. And she'll be too discredited to stop us." One board member shifted uncomfortably. "What about the SEC investigation?" Alaric's smile widened. "What investigation?" "I own the investigators." My blood turned to ice. This wasn't just corporate theft. It was a conspiracy on a massive scale. Thaddeus stopped the video. "He's not just stealing from you, Vesper. He's building a monopoly through fraud, bribery, and blackmail. If he succeeds, thousands of people will suffer." I clenched my fists. "We stop him." "Yes," Thaddeus agreed. "But we need one more thing." He pulled out a flash drive. "This contains everything. But to use it, we need someone on the inside. Someone Alaric trusts completely." My stomach sank. "Who?" "Quillen Frost," Thaddeus said. The name hit me like a punch. Quillen, the CFO who'd been my right hand for 15 years. Brilliant with numbers. Loyal. Or so I'd thought. "Quillen's working with Alaric?" Thaddeus shook his head. "No. Quillen's being blackmailed. Alaric found out about his past, a securities violation from 20 years ago that was buried. He's threatening to expose it unless Quillen cooperates." I sank into a chair, mind spinning. "So Quillen's trapped." "Exactly," Thaddeus said. "But if we can free him from Alaric's leverage, he'll help us. And with Quillen's access to the financial systems, we can freeze Alaric's accounts before he finalizes the expansion deal." I looked at the flash drive in Thaddeus's hand. "What's on there?" "Proof of Alaric's blackmail. Proof of his offshore accounts. And proof that Quillen's old violation was actually orchestrated by Alaric himself as insurance." Hope surged through me. "We give this to Quillen, and he turns on Alaric." Thaddeus nodded. "But we have to move tonight. Tomorrow morning, Alaric signs the final expansion contracts. Once that happens, it's over." I stood, adrenaline flooding my veins. "Where's Quillen now?" "He's at the Grand Hotel downtown," Thaddeus said. "Room 847. He's been staying there since Alaric pushed you out, probably scared to go home. I grabbed the flash drive. I'll go. Thaddeus caught my wrist. It's not that simple. Alaric has people watching the hotel. If they see you, they'll move against Quillen immediately. Then how? There's a service entrance, he interrupted. And I have a contact who can get you inside. But you'll need to be careful. One wrong move, and this whole thing collapses. He handed me a phone, an old burner model. Use this. It's encrypted. My contact's number is already programmed. I pocketed the phone and the flash drive. What about you? I'll work on securing the evidence, Thaddeus said. If this goes wrong, we'll need a backup plan. I nodded and headed for the door. But before I left, I turned back. Why did you fake your death? His expression darkened. Because Alaric tried to kill me. And he almost succeeded. The words hung heavy in the air. Then I left, climbing back up into the foggy morning, knowing that every second counted. The Grandel Hotel loomed against the gray sky like a fortress. I parked 3 blocks away and approached on foot, hood pulled low over my face. The burner phone buzzed. A text appeared, service entrance. Northeast corner. Door code 4739. Go now. I moved quickly, heart pounding. The northeast entrance was hidden behind a row of industrial dumpsters. I punched in the code. The lock clicked. Inside, the service corridor smelled like bleach and old carpet. I took the stairs, 8 flights, until my lungs burned. On the 8th floor, I cracked the door open and peered down the hallway. Empty. Room 847 was at the far end. I moved silently, every nerve on fire. I knocked softly. 3 quick taps. Footsteps approached from inside. The door opened a crack. Quillen's face appeared, pale, exhausted, haunted. Vesper, he whispered. What are you? Let me in, I said urgently. We don't have time. He hesitated, then opened the door. The room was a mess, files scattered across the bed, empty coffee cups on every surface. Quillen looked like he hadn't slept in days. He's going to destroy me, he said quietly. I know, I replied. But not if we destroy him first. I handed Quillen the flash drive. This contains everything. Proof that Alaric orchestrated your past violation. Proof of his blackmail. Proof of the offshore accounts. Quillen stared at it like it was a bomb. Where did you get this? Thaddeus Verne. His head snapped up. Thaddeus is dead. No, I said. He's very much alive. And he's been gathering evidence for 5 years. Quillen sank onto the bed, hands trembling. If I turn on Alaric, he'll come after me. He'll do nothing, I interrupted. Because we're going to expose him first. Tomorrow morning, before he signs those contracts. Quillen looked at me, fear warring with hope in his eyes. How? I pulled out the burner phone and showed him the encrypted files Thaddeus had sent. We freeze his accounts. We send this evidence to the board and the SEC simultaneously. And we do it all before dawn. He rubbed his face, exhausted. If this fails, it won't fail, I said firmly. Because we have something Alaric doesn't. What? The truth. And people who are willing to fight for it. Quillen stared at the flash drive for a long moment. Then he plugged it into his laptop. Let's take him down. We worked through the night. Quillen's fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing systems I didn't even know existed. I'm routing everything through offshore servers, he explained. If Alaric tries to trace this, he'll hit dead ends for days. I watched the screen fill with numbers and code, my heart pounding. How long? An hour, Quillen said. Maybe less. Once I trigger the freeze, his accounts will lock simultaneously. He won't be able to move money, sign contracts, or access anything. My phone buzzed. A message from Cordelia, be careful. Alaric just left his penthouse. Heading downtown. I showed it to Quillen. His face went pale. He knows. How could he know? He has alerts on his financial systems. If I'm accessing them from here, he didn't finish. Footsteps thundered in the hallway outside. Heavy. Multiple people. Quillen grabbed his laptop. Fire escape. Now. We ran for the window as the door exploded inward. 2 security guards stormed in, but we were already climbing onto the metal fire escape, cold wind whipping our faces. Below, more guards poured from the hotel entrance. We were trapped. Up. Quillen shouted. We climbed toward the roof, metal rattling beneath our feet. Behind us, the guards followed, their voices echoing in the night. We burst onto the rooftop, gasping for air. The city sprawled below, lights glittering like broken glass. We're cornered, I said. Quillen opened his laptop, balancing it on an air conditioning unit. Not yet. Just need 30 more seconds. The rooftop door slammed open. Alaric stepped out, flanked by 4 security guards. He looked calm, composed, like a man who knew he'd already won. Vesper, he said smoothly. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Stay back, I warned. He smiled. Or what? You'll jump? He gestured to the edge of the roof. That would solve my problem nicely. Quillen's laptop beeped. Done, he whispered. What? Alaric's eyes narrowed. What did you do? Quillen closed the laptop, standing tall for the first time in days. I froze everything. Your offshore accounts. Your shell companies. Every dollar you stole. The color drained from Alaric's face. You can't, I already did, Quillen said. And in about 5 minutes, the SEC will receive every piece of evidence we have. Alaric lunged forward, but one of the guards grabbed his arm. Sir, we need to leave. Now. His composure cracked. No. Stop them. Get that laptop. But before anyone could move, helicopters appeared overhead, blinding searchlights cutting through the darkness. A voice boomed through a megaphone, this is the FBI. Nobody moves. Alaric's face twisted with rage and disbelief. This isn't over, Vesper. Federal agents poured onto the roof, weapons drawn. They surrounded Alaric and his guards, shouting orders. One agent approached me, badge glinting. Vesper Blackwell? You're safe now. I nearly collapsed with relief. Quillen handed over his laptop. Everything you need is on here. Fraud. Blackmail. Conspiracy. The agent nodded. We've been building a case for months. Your evidence just gave us everything we needed. They led Alaric away in handcuffs. He looked back once, his eyes full of venom. But I didn't flinch. I'd won. As the sun began to rise over the city, Quillen and I stood on that rooftop, exhausted but alive. It's over, he said quietly. But I knew better. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. 3 days later, I stood in the conference room where it all began. The same board members who'd voted me out now sat in uncomfortable silence. Alaric's empty chair loomed at the head of the table like a ghost. The board chairman, a silver-haired man named Westbrook, cleared his throat. Ms. Blackwell, on behalf of the board, I want to apologize. We were misled. I didn't smile. Misled? You threw away 23 years based on forged documents and lies. He shifted uncomfortably. We're prepared to reinstate you immediately. Full authority. The expansion will proceed under your leadership. I looked around the table at their nervous faces. And what about the people who helped Alaric? The ones who falsified documents? Who lied to investigators? Silence. That's what I thought, I said coldly. Here's what's going to happen. I'm taking back control. But there will be changes. Starting with this board. Westbrook's eyes widened. You can't, I can, I interrupted. I've already spoken with the major shareholders. They're backing me. Every single one of you who participated in this fraud will resign. Today. One by one, they stood and left. Only Westbrook remained. What about me? He asked quietly. I considered him. You voted against my removal. I remember. He nodded. You're staying, I said. But you answer to me now. Rebuilding took months. I brought in new board members, people I'd vetted personally. People who understood that loyalty meant something. Quillen stayed on as CFO, his past violation expunged from the record. Cordelia returned to lead the research division. And Thaddeus? He remained in the shadows, but we spoke regularly. He'd become something of a guardian angel, watching over the company he'd helped save. One evening, I stood in my office again, looking out over the city. The expansion was back on track. Better than before. Stronger. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You did it. Congratulations. I smiled, knowing it was Thaddeus. I typed back, we did it. Thank you. His response came quickly, stay vigilant. Men like Alaric always have followers. The words sent a chill down my spine. He was right. This battle was won, but the war wasn't over. Not yet. As if summoned by my thoughts, my assistant knocked on the door. Ms. Blackwell? There's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent. I frowned. Who? She wouldn't give her name. But she said to tell you she knows about Project Nightingale. My blood froze. Project Nightingale was classified. Top secret. Only 3 people knew about it. And one of them was Alaric. The woman waiting in the lobby was young, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and a determined expression. She stood when she saw me. Ms. Blackwell. Thank you for seeing me. Who are you? I asked coldly. My name is Isolde Crane. I was Alaric's personal assistant for 2 years. My jaw tightened. Then you're not welcome here. She raised her hands. Please. I have information you need. About what Alaric was really planning. I hesitated. Why should I trust you? Because I'm the one who tipped off the FBI, she said quietly. I've been gathering evidence against him for 18 months. And I know things you don't. I studied her face, looking for deception. Found none. Fine. 5 minutes. My office. Upstairs, I closed the door and turned to face her. Talk. Isolde pulled out a tablet. Project Nightingale wasn't just an expansion. It was a cover. My stomach dropped. For what? She tapped the screen. Files appeared, schematics, financial projections, correspondence. Alaric was planning to use the expansion as a front for acquiring military-grade medical technology. Then he was going to sell it to foreign governments. I felt sick. That's treason. Yes, Isolde said. And he had buyers lined up. Including people who would use that technology to harm innocent civilians. I sank into my chair, head spinning. How far did this go? Not far, Isolde assured me. I sabotaged most of his connections. But there's one buyer who's still interested. Someone powerful. Who? She hesitated. Senator Darnell Hawthorne. The name hit me like ice water. Hawthorne was one of the most influential politicians in the country. If he was involved, we need to go to the authorities, I said. I already did, Isolde replied. But Hawthorne has friends everywhere. The investigation keeps getting buried. I stood, pacing. So, what do you want from me? Help, she said simply. You have resources. Connections. A platform. If we work together, we can expose Hawthorne before he finds another Alaric to work with. I looked at her, this young woman who'd risked everything to do the right thing. Just like Cordelia. Just like Thaddeus. What do you need? I asked. Isolde's expression hardened. Everything you have on Project Nightingale. And access to your legal team. I nodded. You'll have it. She extended her hand. Thank you, Ms. Blackwell. I shook it. Call me Vesper. And welcome to the fight. Over the next 2 months, we built our case brick by brick. Isolde worked alongside our legal team, connecting dots that others had missed. Thaddeus provided technical expertise, tracking digital footprints Hawthorne thought he'd erased. And I used every connection I'd built over 23 years to apply pressure where it mattered. Finally, we had enough. Quillen called me into his office one Tuesday afternoon. It's ready, he said, gesturing to his computer screen. Every transaction. Every communication. Every lie. I stared at the evidence, thousands of pages, dozens of recordings, undeniable proof. Send it, I said. Quillen looked at me. Are you sure? Hawthorne will come after you with everything he has. Let him try, I replied. He nodded and hit send. The evidence went simultaneously to the FBI, the Senate Ethics Committee, the SEC, and 3 major news outlets. Within hours, the story exploded. Senator Hawthorne tried to deny everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. By evening, he'd been placed under investigation. By morning, he'd resigned. Standing in my office that night, watching the news coverage, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Cordelia appeared in the doorway. You did it again. I smiled. We did it. She walked over, standing beside me. What now? I thought about that. Now? We keep building. Keep fighting. Because there will always be another Alaric. Another Hawthorne. 6 months after Alaric's arrest, the expansion finally launched. The ceremony was held in the main plaza, media, investors, employees, all gathered to celebrate. I stood at the podium, looking out over the crowd. So many faces. Some I knew. Some I didn't. All of them are part of something bigger than any individual. 23 years ago, I had a vision. A dream of transforming healthcare for millions of people. That dream was almost stolen. Almost destroyed. But it survived. And today, we make it real. The crowd erupted in applause. I continued, voice steady. This expansion represents more than business growth. It represents resilience. It represents the truth that no matter how powerful corruption seems, integrity is stronger. And it represents everyone who refused to give up. I gestured to Quillen, Cordelia, and Isolde, all standing nearby. These people saved this company. They saved this dream. And they remind us that loyalty, courage, and truth still matter. More applause. I smiled. So today, we don't just launch an expansion. We launch a promise. A promise to serve with honesty. To lead with integrity. And to never forget that our greatest asset isn't money or technology, it's people. As I stepped down from the podium, the crowd surged forward. Hands reached out. Voices called congratulations. But through it all, I felt centered. Whole. I'd fought the darkness and won. Not just for myself, but for everyone who believed in me. That evening, I found myself back on the harbor where this all began. Pier 19 stretched into the dark water, fog rolling in as it had that morning months ago. Thaddeus emerged from the shadows. Congratulations, he said. Thank you, I replied. For everything. He nodded. What will you do now? I gazed out at the water. Keep building. Keep fighting. What about you? He smiled faintly. I think it's time I stopped hiding. Time to come back to life. The company would be lucky to have you, I said. He shook his head. I'm done with corporate life. But I'll stay close. Just in case you need me again. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Thaddeus spoke again. You know he'll appeal, right? Alaric. He'll try to reduce his sentence. Get out early. I know, I said. And I'll be ready. Thaddeus clapped my shoulder once. I believe you will. He turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. There's a folder in your office. Top drawer. Left side. Open it when you're ready. Before I could ask what he meant, he vanished into the fog. The next morning, I found the folder exactly where he'd said. Inside was a single document, a proposal for a new venture. Something revolutionary. Something that would change everything again. 3 years later, I stood in a different boardroom. Same city. Different building. Different dream. The new venture, Nightingale Protocol, had transformed medical technology worldwide. We'd developed treatments that saved thousands of lives. Created jobs in communities that needed them. Built something that actually mattered. Quillen sat to my right, now a partner in the new company. Cordelia is to my left, leading our research division. Isolde ran operations with fierce efficiency. And Thaddeus? He'd returned from the shadows to become our chief technology officer, his brilliant mind unleashed once again. We'd built something together. Something good. The door opened, and my assistant appeared. Ms. Blackwell? You have a visitor. I frowned. I don't have any appointments this afternoon. She says her name is Vesper Thorne. My blood turned to ice. Thorne. Alaric's last name. Send her in, I said carefully. A woman entered, mid-20s, with Alaric's sharp features but softer eyes. She extended her hand. Ms. Blackwell. Thank you for seeing me. I'm Alaric's daughter. I didn't shake. What do you want? Her voice was steady. To apologize. For what my father did. And to ask for a chance. A chance for what? To prove I'm nothing like him, she said. To work here. To learn from you. I stared at her, searching for any sign of deception. Your father destroyed lives. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, she admitted. Not yet. But I've spent the last 3 years undoing his damage. Returning money to the people he cheated. Testifying against his former partners. I even helped put Senator Hawthorne's associates in prison. I studied her face. Why? Because I spent my whole childhood watching him lie. Watching him hurt people. And I promised myself I'd never become that. Her eyes met mine, honest, clear. I can't change what he did. But I can choose who I become. Silence filled the room. Everyone watched, waiting for my decision. I thought about Alaric, the man I'd trusted who'd betrayed me. The man who'd tried to erase everything I'd built. And then I thought about Cordelia, Quillen, Isolde, Thaddeus, people who'd proven that redemption was possible. One chance, I said finally. Prove yourself. Relief flooded her face. Thank you. I won't let you down. As she left, Quillen leaned over. Are you sure about this? I smiled. No. But I learned something fighting Alaric. People deserve chances. Second chances. Even third chances. As long as they earn them. The sun set outside my window, painting the sky gold and crimson. 26 years since I started this journey. 3 years since I almost lost everything. And now? Now I was building something that would outlast me. Something that mattered. I picked up my phone and sent a message to Thaddeus, thank you. For everything. His response came quickly, the best is yet to come. I believed him. Because after everything, the betrayal, the fight, the victory, I'd learned the most important lesson of all. Power isn't about control. It's about resilience. The ability to rise when everyone expects you to fall. And I would keep rising. Again and again. Before the ink dried on my defeat, I'd reclaimed everything. And I was just getting started.